that book as well. So check that out. Thank you.
Awesome. Definitely check out that Thursday show I do with him. And if you have any stories, please send them in. And if you want, put your information on there, and I will mail you out a pack of free stickers. So there you go. And eventually, by the middle of November, me and Headless will be covering Aleister Crowley's 777 book. It'll probably take us a few years to get through it, but we will try to do this. and yeah. And my man, Ethan Indigo, what is going on, sir? How are you?
Peace, Nick. Headless. Awesome that you're here. Ethan Indigo Smith, easy to find on the usual social media, and I'm a writer and frequently share articles, and so yeah, stoked to be here.
Yes, and you got a bunch of books too, don't you, Ethan?
And yeah, I'm always to write more, and yeah, I've written. I really enjoy sacred geometry, and I've written even a book on that. So stoked to discuss things with you, Leon.
Nice.
Good, man.
Definitely check out Ethan's stuff. He's almost a prolific writer, I would almost consider him. Now, he's got a bunch of books out there.
Yeah, I certainly will.
And now, Leon, sir, the guest of the hour, or however long it takes. Again, I had met this guy at Charlie's Beyond Belief. He was one of the few people there that were kind of like into this stuff besides me. And I saw that he was in sacred geometry, and he's kind of big into numerology. So I was like, this sounds like my type of guy to have on the show. So I got his information, checked out some of his stuff, and here he is. So, Leon, why don't you let everybody know what your deal is and where they can find any social media?
Yeah, sure. I've got the Instagram page. It's my name, Leon Bowski. I've got a website that's Sacred Geometry Numerology, and emails. The Instagram is growing. I've come down to South Florida about 4 months ago from Europe, and I'm doing lectures right now at Hippocrates Health Institute, which is right next door to me where I'm staying in West Palm Beach, and doing readings there, doing readings at Spirit Fest events. And then I'm going to one this weekend. I don't know if you all know about it in Sarasota. There'll be a Spirit Fest event there, 2-day event. And then I did this Body and Soul event with people that also have a podcast, Bruce and Lauren. And staying really busy right now. It's been a good place to be.
Yeah,
and I do readings. What I do,
keep going.
And I do it, Ethan, you might be interested in this. What happened is I became aware that I understood numerology, which isn't that difficult. And then I also became aware that no one had taken numerology and put it in the feminine, in sacred geometry. It was always linear. Like we could talk about numbers forever. But I wanted to talk about numbers in a circle. And being a child of the 60s, I knew about mandalas, I knew about horoscopes, I knew about the Wiccan circle, the medicine wheel, everything was circular. So somehow God answered my question, and I was unable to put a person's birth date, the numerology, in the circle. And what made that work was being able to be clear enough to see what was apparent. And what was apparent was the circumference of the circle was 120 years. And that's not saying how long a person will live, that's the length, the distance between, say, West Palm Beach and Sarasota. So it became apparent to me a number of ways. The most obvious is pragmatic. How long do the longest lived people live? The oldest people, between 115 and 125. And then, through tradition, people wish upon each other, may you live to be 120. And as I've traveled, wherever I go, there's some astute person, like here, Brian. When I was in Sedona, it was another guy. When I was in England, it was another guy. they write books. I want to live to be 120. So once I knew that the circle was 120 and you divide it into 4 directions like you do the circle, then that was 30, 60, and 90, and then 120. 30, 60, and 90 are approximate your Saturn returns, which again is not a chronological thing. It's just a division of the whole soul, different quarters. And in yoga, you have those 4 quarters: youth, adult, senior, and elderly. So when I started putting the numerology in that chart, then it was like an instrument that told a story. And it's been 100% accurate. And I didn't get to do you, did I, Nick? I didn't do your numerology there. No. But I did a bunch of people real quick.
Yeah. I was all over the place there. I was in
Yeah, I didn't expect to do readings there. I didn't know what to expect. There was, but people like you, it was mainly vendors that approached me. People that were tuned in.
Yeah, there was actually, I would tell you the truth, I was a little surprised. I mean, I don't know how you would call it witchy, occult, and magical, whatever. There was a decent amount of people there that were kind of like would fit into those categories more than I expected. There was a couple of witches there. The chick with the singing bowl, she was singing new praises the whole time. Jessica, I think her name was. Jessica. Yeah. She was like, "Oh my God, you got to go over that guy." This guy blew my mind with this number stuff. Shit. But,
what I've done is turned to be pretty helpful for people, insightful. I don't claim it to be psychic. Like I say, it's just an instrument, and it's an accurate instrument.
It's interesting. Go ahead, Nick.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead, Ethan. Go ahead.
I was going to say it's interesting your design of the 4-quartered circle corresponding with the 4 aspects of life. That, as you point out, that's something that we see in many different cultures carried through. I've also seen or heard rather about how as we age, we kind of sometimes we'll get stuck in one way or another, but we'll go through our base chakra for 7 years and then into the next chakra and kind of spend like 7 years at a time going through these not that we're stuck in them, that's our focus, right? Like as a baby, we just have needs, and it's kind of like base needs. And as we age, we go through the chakra system. I wonder if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, a lot of them. Like when you all mention Aleister Crowley, I know the name, and then you mentioned the book 777. It doesn't matter what discipline you're in, it's going to be 7 steps of completion. And again, that's like the 120. Look at that man. Yeah, that's the obvious, because how many days of creation? We're talking about creation, 7. How many days of the week? 7. How many chakras? 7. How many colors in a rainbow? The whole gamut of color, 7. So 7's a number of completion. And I'll just tell you this, since we're all males here doing this, you don't want to argue with a woman that has too many 7s in her chart. Very intuitive. Women are intuitive anyway. A woman with a 7 in her chart, and I've encountered a lot of them in my life, they're very intuitive people. So it's a number of creation. It's someone that knows all of the aspects. And again, it doesn't matter, where we're going and reading, we'll see the 7 steps. So you're entirely correct, Ethan. And that's how, and it cycles. Like you said, if you want to look at the Saturn return, you got 4 7s, and then that's approximately it. You can hear colloquialisms like the 7-year itch. My wife doesn't like me to get so personal, but my wife left me 7 years to the week, almost to the day that we met, and she's back. But 7 is a cycle. 7 is definitely a cycle. 7 steps.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, I've even
See,
noticed a lot.
the other numbers also. Huh?
Sorry. I just want to mention real quick, Leon.
No, go.
Something I've even noticed though. You had mentioned like the feminine and putting stuff into a circle. I know kabbalistically, the seventh sphere would be associated with the female, but there's even been plenty of times where, like, even in the Voynich manuscript is one example where you will see like 7 women. Like you'll just see like 7, like in some sort of like feminine kind of replayed over and over and over again. So I do find that, and the color green is always used as well, which goes with Netzach, which is the seventh sphere on the Kabbalistic tree of life. So I guess I kind of get what you're saying. Is like I think sometimes 7 is almost like the whole everything has been encapsulated and is in form. I'm saying kind of like.
Yeah, like the 7 days of creation. I mean, that's the whole creation, you know. So yeah, 7's got that vibe to it. All the other numbers do too. They have a vibe. Like 1, if I see a guy or a person with 1 in their chart, they're going to spend some time alone in their life. They might even, have their personality is such that they want a certain amount of solitude and independence. But the tricky part is when you're doing a reading for someone and they have a 1 in their chart and they ask you a question like, well, when's the pretty girl coming? Or when's the handsome man coming? There's no answer for that. But with the sacred geometry numerology, Ethan is informing people is how the 1 is experiencing itself through an individual. Like we're experiencing the oneness, but the oneness, and that's where sacred geometry comes in, Ethan. One of the best definitions I've heard of the 1 came out of a book. I don't know if y'all are familiar with this guy, but he wrote a book called about the jewel in the lotus, and his name was Douglas Baker, and he was a Rosicrucian from England. He's dead now, but he became pretty popular in England. And at the beginning of the book, and I got to laugh when I say this, he had 7 postulates of perennial wisdom. And people say, oh, there's no absolute truth. Well, here was some of his 7 postulates. Everything is alive. Everything exists within a larger being. And one of them was God is a center that's everywhere, but with no circumference. So you can't put a circumference about the eternal 1. But how the eternal 1 comes into each one of us or every aspect of creation, that's when you get the sacred geometry. You have a center and then you have a circumference. You have the electromagnetic field or whatever you want to call it of that being. So if I see a 1 in someone's chart, that's how the larger 1, the MAGA 1, is experiencing itself through that individual, which means that individual has to become a strong individual. It's not a done deal. That's a potential. That's the course that a person's on. So if I see a 1 in someone's chart, it's about them becoming a very self-empowered. And then you go on from there. 2, 3, 4. 3, as we know, that's a basic building block of all structure of creation. The triangle, flower of life, Trinity, principle of creation. So that has its vibe to it too. And it goes all the way up to 9. Numerology, the Pythagorean way of doing it is everything's reduced to those primary numbers 1 through 9. And then we have these double numbers 11, 22, and 33. And a whole lot of people that I get involved with have 11s in their chart. And I never got to do you, Nick, so I don't know who you are. But my birth path number is 11. What's your birthday, Nick?
April 19th.
April 19th. So that's a 4 and a 1. When you see the 4 in a person's chart in that first quarter, Ethan, you've got it on a spectrum. because everything's, as we know now, is on a spectrum. So on one end of the spectrum, Nick could have come out of a very structured environment that he's trying to, you know, when we go in that second quarter where we're adults, what's happening is we're actually not free. We're actually responding to our childhood or our foundation. So like in Nick's case with a 4 in that first quarter and then a 1, either his upbringing made him a very strong individual or it didn't, and he wants to become a strong individual somewhere on that spectrum, depending on what that situation was. And then that adds up to a 5, because if you look at 60 as a midpoint of life on this 120 years circle, 60, the 2 quarters would be halfway. So in Nick's case, 4 and 1 is a 5. That's a communicator. 5 is Gemini, air, communication. So it's natural that he'd be doing this as he's developing his life. Is another person there?
Hi. Yeah, sorry that I'm late.
So yeah, that's the way it works. That and this chart that I've done and the way that I'm able to look at a person's birth date is very accurate.
Is anybody
And I don't take credit for that. It's just something.
Anybody else here willing to
Huh?
try this? I want to see if anybody else here was willing to try this, if they did. Or somebody even in the chat.
Yeah.
Or is it just if you don't mind again?
Mine's August 14th.
Who just said you, Ethan? August 14th. You're coming in with 8. Yeah, August is the 8th month. I've got a daughter that's born in August too. 8's the infinity sign. It goes beyond that 7. So what that means is for energy to flow infinitely, it has to overcome all obstacles. So if you got that in your first quarter, there's a possibility, again, looking at the spectrum, that your childhood could have been disruptive. But it hardwires you one way or the other, positive or negative. You're a goal-oriented individual. That's your foundation. You want success. You're an achiever. Because that's, like I say, if you look at the infinity sign, that's about infinite energy flowing. So that's foundationally who you are. And then you said the 14th?
Mm-hmm.
That's another 5. 1 and 4 is 5. So writing books, any way you can communicate. You know, we're the mouthpiece, we're the communicators. But it also means for you, with that 5 energy, you need your freedom, brother. It's like air, doesn't want to be contained. So, and the reason this is helpful for people, you can't be anybody different than the way that you are. You know, the path that you're on, how that 1 we were talking about is experiencing itself through you. So if someone tries to take away your freedom of movement, your freedom of curiosity, it's going to go against the grain. And then if we look at that 8 and 5 together, 8 and 5, 13, that's a 4. So a 4, again, the box, like what Nick has, when you got that 4 energy, you want some stability. So again, I don't know your personal life, but I know in creating this first half of your life, you want some structure, some solidity, and a purpose in life. It's very earthy, pragmatic. So you see that combination, and then how you synthesize that combination is unique, individual. You're going to find your own expression. So there could be a lot of people the same birthday.
That all rings really true, resonates. Thank you for sharing that.
No, I love, Boo, I love doing it. I asked every waitress, every gas station attendant for years until I got to this place.
Every waitress, that's funny. Of course, why not? Real quick, would you mind doing one more? If I ask somebody, there was somebody in the chat.
Yeah, I'll do as many as I can. Yeah.
Where was he again? 7. Oh wait, no. 4, 12, 93.
4, 12, 93. So again, on the spectrum with that 4, there's the two ends of the spectrum, but the truth is somewhere in between. One end, a person could come out of a very structured environment, or the other end, it's a soul that wants structure in their life. And then you said the 12th?
12th, yes.
That's a 3. Yeah, it's a 3. People that with the 3 energy, very sweet people. I call them sweethearts. I don't care if they're male or female.
He's a nice
That's again, like we're talking about. Yeah. The child is a third member of the family, third dimension. It's very innocent. So people with that 3 energy, unless they're damaged, are very sweet people. They make good employees, good friends. That's as we know, we're talking about the same reality in a lot of different ways. Those are your angles that Tesla liked. He liked the 3, 6, 9. You look at the triangle, that's the easiest way for energy to flow. So these are acquiescent people that have that 3 energy. I don't do celebrities, just to do them. But when I was in England, Sinead O'Connor died, and that was like a big deal. And then Ozzy died, and that was a big deal. They had the same numerology, and the first number was a 12, which is a 3. So there were sweet people, as we know, at heart, but they were both horribly damaged by their parents. They had horrible childhoods. They were abused. So they acted out like that. That's 80% of all of us. Something happened in our childhood that should have been divine, and instead it could have been not divine. And then we develop these coping mechanisms, but eventually the real person will come out. Like with Ozzy, the Prince of Darkness turned out to be the prince when he died. I mean, the guy was beautiful. His soul was beautiful. The way he impacted humanity. It was a big deal in England. At that last concert that he did, I can't remember what they called it, but he raised a lot of money, and it all went to charity. So yeah, he was a beautiful guy. And Sinead, they both had 3, 8 in their first 2 quarters, which adds up to an 11. Those of us with 11s in our chart, we're here to bring in the new age, whatever people want to call it. So in Sinead's case, she was trying to save everybody. She didn't want to just save women or Irish people or Rastafarians. She was everywhere trying to wake people up. So yeah, they were interesting people. It's fun to do. It's fun to do. So, and you said 93, that's 1 and 9 is 10 and 9 is 19, 3 is 22. When you see that 22, which I have in my chart, that's somebody that can think of something and manifest it. And again, this is a spectrum. Some people are going to do nothing with that energy. Some people are going to roll with it. Arthur Conan Doyle is a 522 like me, and he rolled with it. Bernie Taupin is a 522 that wrote all the lyrics, Elton John. So yeah, it's the ability with 22 energy to create. It's like the 4. The 4 has a purpose, but the 22 blows it up. It's a higher frequency. And any of those double numbers, 11, 22, and 33, it's a desire to do something that'll affect the world, not just the person. So then we add all that up together. And see, the first half of that individual you gave me, Nick, with a 4 and a 3, that's a 7. So this is a person that's got deep feelings, wants the truth. Again, with these 7 people, like I said, it's any 7 person, but in my life, it's been every female that's come into my life, my sister, my wives, my daughters. You don't want to lie to them. They're very intuitive people. So they know if you're giving them the truth or not. And then that 7 and 22, adding the first half and then the year 1993 is probably an 11. So you're looking at a person that's got those 2 numbers that I have in my chart, 11 and 22. It's interesting. Interesting when you come upon someone like that, because the 11 energy, like I said, why is 11? Why I say it's a number for the new age? Because it's ruled by Uranus, and Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, and we're astrologically going or in the age of Aquarius. That's not the only reason why we're going through all this change right now. There's a couple of, and Ethan might know more about this than I do, but there's a couple of other big cycles that are coming back to their origin point. And everything's going to change. The human being is changing. Those of us that are going to survive, and I don't mean us personally, but those humans that are going to survive through this transition aren't going to be Homo sapiens. It's going to be something different. That's why we're all learning all this quote unquote occult and esoteric wisdom, because we're learning who we really are. And once we learn who we really are, then we can consciously co-create and not be, and that's the big theme. I know I'm doing a lot of talking. This is a major escape from slavery. That's the big picture. It's happened a couple of times historically, but it's what's happening now. We're divine individuals. We're not anybody's slave. And that's what we're being processed through right now. And it's like the darkest hour before the dawn sort of scenario right now that we're seeing. But it'll come through.
You know, when you mentioned
So yeah, that's why we're doing the work. What's
I
that?
know it's a little off, but I wanted to mention earlier when you had mentioned planets before. It's funny how like you mentioned Uranus and I think another one, and even with the planets,
Yeah,
the moon isn't technically a planet, but we still use those 7 planets for like normal.
right.
Cult. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like going again back to the 7. It's like there's more than 7, and there's one number that really shouldn't be counted. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
like
Yeah, no, I forgot about that. The 7 original planets that are visible to the eye.
yeah.
That's kind of why I got out of astrology too, because you can find as many planets and stars as you want. It can go on and on and on, but the numerology always goes back to those primary numbers, 1 through 9.
Real quick, only because not to put you on the spot, Eros, but since you came on late, wanted to give you a chance to let everybody know like what's up with you and who you are.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Nick. I'm Aerosup. You can find me on YouTube at Aerosup or Twitter at Eros to Ethos. I cover the Enneads and I post a lot about astrology, which made me kind of think of what this fine gentleman was talking about, cycles coming to an end. We definitely have a big cycle coming to an end. And we're starting a new cycle here in February. In February, we have a new solar eclipse cycle starting in Aquarius, which is going to be a pretty big deal. And then we have that same month, we're going to have Neptune and Saturn conjunct in Aries for the first time in 6,000 years. So,
Hell yeah.
yeah.
Nice. Hell yeah. Throwing some Aries in there. Should definitely be some change in chaos.
For sure, because the other times that we've had these Neptune-Saturn conjunctions in history have been like major revolutions, like the Bolshevik Revolution in 1917, the Chinese Revolution, the French Revolution, the American Revolution, and then also the Great Depression. It happens about every 56 years, but it happening in Aries seems like a big deal because that's the head, that's where That's kind of the foundational energy.
Very well. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
That is something I was I find it interesting that you mentioned that, Leon, and especially what you just added, Euros. I have wondered, I know this maybe goes off a little bit with what the topic is. But, I mean, I've even mentioned it to Headless, and I think he's even pointed stuff out to me before. Not so much with humans. I guess with humans I can see it, but I've even noticed, like, I think animals are even getting a little bit more, I don't know, in tune or self-aware, or they're not as, I don't know, it just seems to be getting smarter. You know, and I wonder about that. Like, is there actually some sort of like intellectual upgrade or something? Some.
Yeah, it's an upgrade for sure. Yeah. Yeah, and none of us, I don't think, can see the complete picture, but I think we're all aware of what this energy is feels like and where it's leading us, but we're becoming conscious. And what we're doing right now, I'm an old child of the 60s, and a lot of people, don't have a really good perspective on that. But think about this. So much of what we're doing now came out of the 60s. What people are enjoying now as far as nonconformity and bringing in this new vibe, we got all that information in the 60s, and there wasn't any internet. There wasn't any school. And within a couple of years, it was a drive to your computer, and it's got all the information in it. It's like those of us that were taking psychedelics or whatever that were open, it was like a flash drive, and we knew a whole bunch of stuff real quick. My thing is, I don't know, buffering or something. But yeah, y'all are back. So like whether we're talking about, the occult, whether we're talking about organic food, natural childbirth, all of this came out of the 60s. And it was, so the reason I'm saying all that is if anybody's listened to Edgar Cayce talks about the Akashic record, where we know everything. We're part of the one. So we can ask a question. We don't even have to verbalize it. And we can get an answer. Because just like with a computer, we're connected. So I see that what we're doing with the internet and computers and all these devices now and technology is preparing us, like you said, Nick, for an upgrade. We're not going to be those stupid, blockheads that a lot of people have been for a long time. And what one person said about that, and I like the terminology a lot, they're going to be thought out of existence. Just like Cro-Magnon, Neanderthal, the DNA is still around, but they're not around. We have absorbed that. So the people that aren't going to make this upgrade, they're not going to be around in a couple of 100 years. And that's why I think a lot of us are trying to share the information that we're trying to share right now, whether it's with our family, our friends, or like Ethan with his 5 energy, and we're just sharing it, putting it out there wherever it'll stick, wherever we'll listen.
When it comes to the Headless, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was going to mention Rupert Sheldrake in the morphogenic field is getting a lot more attention nowadays, which is talking about sort of this resonance effect that happens between information and living organisms as well. So it's kind of like the more people become aware of this stuff, the greater ability we have to interact with it.
It's almost kind of like it's spread.
That's true. And that's like the 100th moment thing. Yeah. And that was Rupert Sheldrake, right? That wrote that. I met his son in Totnes. He's into mushrooms big time. And he wrote a pretty successful book about it. But yeah, if you go back to the mycelium, same thing. The mycelium, which is like the network that's underneath the ground, it's connected. Everything is totally connected.
Shit is wild.
So yeah, it's pretty interesting. We're learning all this. You know, we know things now our parents didn't know. Even people that go to college, they get out of college, they don't know this.
Yeah, when we start talking about this stuff, obviously, like I'm assuming you have seen it. You see this stuff done in the past in other cultures and in art, occultism and symbolism, right? Like it's almost as if we're relearning something
Right.
over and over and over again.
That's exactly right. It's returning us back to the intelligence of Mother Earth, which indigenous people, first world people never got away from. But we're doing it now with this Atlantean technology. And hopefully we don't do what they did in Atlantis, where they misuse the technology. And we see that possibility right now, where things can get destroyed. So I don't know how it's going to work out, but I got a lot of faith in it, because it's been prophesized that we are going to go into this golden age, and this age of peace and love. Otherwise, us hippies were full of, I ain't gonna say the word, but we believed it, and we brought the vibe down, and that's what it is too, Nick. I think the vibe's there, and it's up to individuals to bring, to anchor that vibe, or to bring that vibe into reality, and that's what we're doing.
Well, we've had other periods in history of major cognitive advancement. If you look back at the 500 years or so, with Plato and the philosophers over in Greece, as well as all the way across the Middle East into China, you had about 500 years, starting around the time of Buddha, with this age of philosophy, and then things transition very quickly after that. But you see these synchronous events sort of taking place all over the world at the same time. And there's no real reason for it other than, maybe there's some other energy entering into the atmosphere.
To that point, I was going to ask what you guys think, and especially Leon, what you think about, well, let me preface it with the idea that plasma energy dispersed into the universe kicks up our consciousness, instigates growth of consciousness is a theory, and that this 3I Atlas comet is coming through, and supposedly one of the effects is going to be that it's going to kick up a bunch of plasma energy. And maybe if that is true about the consciousness and plasma, it's going to, who knows what kind of effects on the planet. I just wonder, I know it's far out, but hey, you're talking about the 60s, so.
It doesn't sound far out at all. No, it doesn't. There's a lot that came out of the 60s, because I lived through that. I was in the military from 63 to 68, and I was a regular dude. I was a young dude. I was a very regular dude. Eating 2 steaks, on steak night. I was in special forces, very conventional, just enjoying my life. Well, you all know what it's like. No, I didn't have to. Luckily, being a survival instructor, I was stationed in Spokane. But everybody that was on flying status had to go through the survival school, and then they put them back on flying status. So yeah, that was fortunate, because we had to cross train at that time to get into survival, and it was called air rescue survival. So if I would have gone into air rescue, I would have ended up in Vietnam. I might not be talking to you, but I ended up in survival. But by the time I was getting out, we were already turning on. I'd already started smoking cannabis. I was listening to Jimi Hendrix and, everybody, Bob Dylan. I turned down $50,000 in 68 to get out and be part of the counterculture. And within a year, in early 69, I'd taken 2,000 mics of pure Osley LSD on my first psychedelic trip. So never looked back, from then. But yeah, that's the thing that I wanted to share. That's a little personal stuff. Is what, reflecting back on it, we were the first generation, and I share this with people. There's always been incredible turned on people. There was never a turned on generation in the history of recorded history until the 60s. It didn't matter where on the globe a person was, all of a sudden they understood the Beatles, they understood Dylan, they understood psychedelics. It was, like I say, it wasn't anything that was shared in a conventional way. It was a download from spirit. But the message that comes out of the 60s is cosmic consciousness. That wasn't a part of language up until our generation. People didn't think like that. They didn't talk like that. So what I've seen happen in the last 50 years is that just what we're talking about. We understand we're part of the galaxy now. We're part of the universe. So I think this upgrade is an upgrade from provincial, tribal humanity to us becoming part of the galactic federation or brotherhood. However that's happening. A lot of people are watching it happen, have some information about it, but I don't think any of us know exactly what that means. But that's to me is what the truth of it is. It's no longer I'm a white person, I'm an American, I'm a Christian, I'm a Republican. Now we're just all part of one Earth that's part of this galaxy, this universe. And we realize now it's not empty space out there, it's all conscious and it's full of life. And we're going to hit a place where we can, like we're doing right now, connect with that information and that life. People call it disclosure right now.
One thing I did want to ask, it was kind of something that me and Headless were thinking about before you came on. I know, like, because I'm just assuming since you're into numbers, maybe you would maybe think this way or entertain this idea. Just in fact of like the sun itself is emitting like basically code. Whatever's coming off the sun is like basically like in the light. I mean, once it gets into your eye and connects to the optic nerve and gets turned into electricity, it's basically reading some sort of code. Like there's information in there. Do you think there could be even changes like amongst what's out there from the sun bouncing off the moon or anything even coming into us that might even somehow be influencing that sort of stuff?
Yeah, right. I don't think we're dreaming this stuff up. I really don't. I don't think we had the ability to do that. I think it's something that's coming from that larger being. Everything expands, consciousness expands, and there's a larger being that we're part of, which is Solaris. Like whether people want to argue about it, we're all part of Gaia. Where Gaia goes, we go. And where Solaris goes, we go too. Gaia goes. And then Solaris is part of the Milky Way. It's part of some galaxy. So where that goes, we go. So everything's connected like that. So yeah, and it's all information, brother Nick. It really is. We can turn it into math, whatever, but that's what's happening. It's total information. It's incredible. It's beyond any computer or AI that we have right now.
And you did even before
I like it.
Mentioning sevens, and you're talking about the Earth. I mean, it's not 7 on the dot, but even the frequency of the Earth is 7.83. So I found that to be like
yeah. Yeah, do y'all listen to Robert Edward Grant ever? He's a pretty sharp guy, and he's a polymath, but I can't follow him because he's more intellectual than I am. But all measurement, all time, distance, add up to a 9. If we talk about 360, 3 and 6, that's a 9. So seven's a number of completion in one sense. 9 is that number that everything culminates into is 9. I'm not really sure why. I do know that 9 is complete expansion. Like any of you all have a 9 in your chart, it's pretty interesting. Really far out people can get almost too far out. Not the exact opposite of 1. Yeah, exact opposite of 1. You know, I see a 9 in somebody's chart. It's like you can get lost in fiction, fantasy, depending on how grounded you are, because it's about expansion. And if there is a 9 in your chart and you want to expand, I was looking at the hot air balloons in Sedona. It's about dropping the sandbag. So if someone has a 9 in their chart, it's about getting rid of the old age bullshit. You know, whether it's from our parents, from education, from past lives or whatever. But to completely let things expand, you got to let go of patterns that are limiting without getting too spaced out, you know, without becoming unmoored. So yeah, it's interesting. 9 people, they're here with you, and when they leave, they're gone. They have just left. They take big steps. They're not clingers.
Did any of you have any other questions before I keep asking? Because I do have a few things. Or did anybody want to say anything? I don't want to keep going.
I'll pop in there. So an interesting part about the 9 is there's a connection between Gene Roddenberry and ancient Greece when it comes to sort of this futurist vision. So if you go back to the Theogony, those stories about the gods were told to the writer by the 9 muses. And so those 9 muses sort of ushered in this new age of polytheism and all the rest of this stuff with the Theogony. And Gene Roddenberry was involved in this sort of a channeling group in England where they predicted the upcoming alien contact. And he was inspired by that to write Star Trek and all the rest of the futurism that we kind of see on TV today. So the 9 almost inspired humanity to change directions in interesting ways.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, because like just exactly what you're saying, brother. The 9 is about that expansion, total expansion like that. And there's other aspects of that 9 energy, but that makes a lot of sense to me. It really does. There are people that want to go to the border, you know, to the extremes. Like my daughter is August 9th. So when we go to the playground, she goes as far as she can. She doesn't cling. She goes out there. So that's what that 9 energy is. So that makes a lot of sense to me. And what's beautiful talking to people like you all is you all have some background information that I absolutely do not have. You know, I've only learned what I've learned, but all of us together, and that's again part of that 60s vibe, you know. We would sit around, not like our parents, you know, talking about conventional stuff, but we'd hit some cannabis, get high, and then we'd start sharing information. And that's been going on since then. So yeah, it's beautiful.
In the past, people were more monothematic in their thinking, where the 60s, post-60s, everyone was all about synthesis of all these different great ideas, bringing it all together, right?
Yeah. And, you know, the beauty of it, again, like I said, it wasn't us. Because I remember Dylan saying a little while ago, he said, I can't write that shit anymore. We're channeling this stuff. Like right now, what we're doing with this information, I mean, we got some stuff that's stored in our brains, but we're just channeling this life, you know, this cosmic information. It's happening right while we're talking.
I had Tommy Chong on once, and I had asked him, I forgot what I asked him. Something in his answer was that he gets everything from channeling. He's tapped in. Channeling, and that's where it all comes from. Something kind of like that.
It's true.
inspiration from or something.
Yeah, I when I first heard that word back in the early 90s, I hated it. I thought this has got to be the most ridiculous thing I ever heard of. What are you channeling? Mother Mary, Jesus, Jupiter, whatever. But I've taught yoga for 5.5 decades, and every class I taught, I was channeling. Yogi Bhajan, who gave us Kundalini Yoga, he didn't read a script. He was channeling that energy. And if you want to just do something that's like teaching a class or something hell, you can go out in the middle of the ocean and stand on a life raft by yourself and teach a class. Otherwise, it's fresh and you're channeling it. So yeah, it's interesting how that's all happening. But yeah, they channeled the music. I mean, you don't see Paul McCartney writing what he wrote back in the 60s. He's singing the same stuff, but he's not channeling the same energy at all. And Cheech and Chong were brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I don't know how they came up with what they did. Look at George Carlin, what the information that came through him. Just channeling a whole bunch of truth and turning it into comedy.
Speaking of channeling, the remote viewers point to 9s as being symbolic of humans. So when they'll do little ideograms when they're doing their channeling, and a 9 is a person, and it's similar to like we're in the womb for 9 months and so on. Just to add. Sorry.
That's true too. I never thought about that. The 9 months too, and then what you shared with me about the 9, what was it, sirens or muses? Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, that's where we get the word music from. So music would be the inspiration from the muses, and that's sort of like transfers over into solidifies ideas in some ways.
So like as just a common dude, if some woman is playing music with that 9 energy, you're gone. You surrender, you're going to have to let it go.
9 is also
Nick, what is this? Like it looks like a play button in the middle of this screen here. Should I hit that?
Oh, I don't know. For what? I don't even know where that's at.
Yeah, I don't know either. Because like right now, none of y'all are moving. I can hear everybody.
Oh, you're good.
But I'm afraid to hit it.
No, you're good. Just wait for us to come back. As long as you can hear us.
Okay.
So, Eros, you were going to say something?
Oh, I was going to say, yeah, number 9 is associated with Jupiter too. And Jupiter is also associated with 3 because it's tilted at 3 degrees. So it's like, is it representing expansion from 3 to 9? I don't know. It's kind of interesting.
93.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I did not know that about Jupiter. 3 degrees.
Yeah, it's the 9th house. It rules the 9th house in astrology of higher learning and expansion and long distance travel. Yeah.
Long distance travel. That's really interesting because I always say that I think, I think the hero's journey I always claim is like, I think Tahuti has like a path on the tree. And if he's associated, I would say that he starts where Mercury is on the tree of life. And
at 3.
Where he ends up, I think Jupiter at some point because it's a higher arc of Mercury. What you said kind of makes sense.
And they are opposite too.
Yeah, because Mercury is a traveler as well. So.
Yep. And in the zodiac, the 3rd house is ruled by Mercury, and that's opposite the 9th house. It's just kind of interesting how it works. It's like they're the same energy, like half the same, half opposite.
I wonder if it's interesting to wonder if maybe the 12 cranial nerves actually have anything to do with 12 zodiacs. Look at it like that. Oh, that sounds out there.
There are no coincidences.
Yeah, no, because a lot of the messages, again, like I have even covered certain things. Like my opinion, I do think sometimes angels might actually be nerve systems, because they're sending messages. So I just wonder when it comes to physiology or the occult, sometimes could angels or messengers actually be your nervous system? So looking at it like, and then again, that would have to do with the messages and the back and forth. Sorry to nerd out on that one. I'll make more sense of it one day in the future. Try. There was before we had mentioned like expansion and like the one and like the I guess the surrounding. That did make me think of like the circumpole, which went back to like a solar sigil. And again, that even made me think of like possibly like information plasma, what kind of stuff that Heather's were getting at earlier. And then in some sense, I think it also does, like, if you kind of want to look at it, is an eyeball as well. I don't know if any of that has anything to, hits on anything for you, or that symbol. You know what I'm talking about? The solar, the circumpunct?
No.
The circumpunct, you'll love it.
Yeah, it's the circle with the dot in the middle.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's basic sacred geometry. Is a circle with a dot. That's which every one of us is. All creation, everything that's manifest.
Ethan, when it comes to like the circle,
my thing keeps saying Instagram. Yeah, and when those two individual circles combine or come together, that's what they call the Vesica Pisces, which is where the three comes from, and then all life comes from the three. Like the Tao Te Ching says, first the one, then the two, and from the two comes the three, and from the three comes everything, just like the triangle.
Yeah, that's almost where I was going to try to go with this. Thinking of like the eyeball and the circumpunct, you have one eye. Well, technically that's showing you one eye, but you have two, and then both of those eyes are actually giving you what you actually see, and then that tells your brain. So technically, you have two mixing into three, and then going back and telling your brain. So I even see how like the 1, 2, and 3 become even 3 eyeball with the circle. That was a little out there.
Yeah, it's all interesting. Teaching yoga for so long, when you turn inward, when you're teaching yoga, you realize your body's forming a bunch of triangles. That classic sitting pose in yoga, whether it's lotus or easy pose, and you've got both arms extended to your knees, that's a triangle from your wrists up to your third eye. Simple triangle. And just what you were saying about the two eyeballs, there's a triangle again from the two eyeballs up to the pineal gland, where it all becomes one. Yeah, like Jesus said, let thy eye be single.
Yeah, I forgot which part of the brain it is. There's like even a certain part. It's like it's very, very important that it's a cellular structure switches over from hexagon to triangle. It's the only.
Yeah, I think it's been referred to as like the third eye, the pineal gland, the single eye. I can't get my darn screen to move.
Really, it's still messed up. Jesus.
Everybody's frozen right now on my screen. It's probably a crappy Chromebook. I'm dealing with. I got to upgrade my equipment.
We can hear you great. And you're coming through great. So that's what's important. And I was going to say in Tai Chi, they focus on. Sometimes we'll make the consideration of being triangular from the center of the head, if you will, through the knees down to the feet, and every warrior stance too, right? And yoga is just all about being the triangle. That's interesting.
Yep. Yeah, Yogi Bhajan. That's who I got certified by in the early '70s, and I remember a lot. that he said over the years. But he said yoga is basically a system of angles and triangles, and you can feel it when you're doing yoga too. Yeah, it's all geometry. Like when we look at each other, I've thought about this. We already know that when we look at things, it's actually coming in like cones into our eyes, like these triangular cones, and then our brain or something decodes that and turns it into images because we really don't see the images. And when we look at each other, I think we're measuring each other in triangles, like how far apart a person's eyes are, how their face looks to us, the symmetry. It's all triangular. It's very pleasing to us, or it's irregular and not as pleasing to us.
Is there anything else anybody wanted to ask or bring up? Eros, I didn't want to put you on the spot. Was there any other cycles that you knew, or was that like the only one that's kind of big one that's happening right now?
I wish I've come across a couple, but I know that this is like major. Like it's not like the change from Rome to Christianity, and then from Christianity to colonialism. There's stuff that we're collectively understanding, like a lot of people, and I just found out about this a couple of decades ago. Greg Braden really believes it, or has introduced it, Drunvalo McKelzadek, people like that. But they postulate, or whatever the word is, that about 200,000 years ago, we got a serious upgrade. And it was a cosmic intervention where some of our DNA was fused, because we're not primates. There's a big difference between Cro-Magnon, Homo, Neanderthal, and who we are. And it happened all at once. So this is something else like that. And I'm not really sure what it is, but I know we're on the verge of it. I feel like that Martin Luther King and Moses story where I see the promised land, but I'm not going there with you. I think those of us in this generation now, we're getting a hint of where things are going, but there's really no way to see what the conclusion is, where it's headed. But I know it's a major change from what's been happening for the last 200,000 years. And we only have about 10,000 years of that of recorded history. But what happens, and I tune into the 7 again. And, we were talking about the 7, the Native Americans with the 7 generations. So if we think 7 generations from the 60s, we're into like the 3rd or 4th generation right now. So think about, 3 more generations. I think it's going to wipe out what we've known, business as usual, and it's going to be a totally different reality that people are going to be living. And me being almost 80, I don't think I'm going to see it. I'm going to see it happen, but I feel the change happening too, for sure. But yeah, that's whether it's the 26,000 year cycle that's coming back to its origin point, because everything spirals and comes back to its origin point. So I think that's what's happening, is some of these major cycles that could be very lengthy, very far-reaching, are coming back to their origin point and getting ready to go through another cycle, a more expanded cycle. Cosmic. Yeah.
Eros, yeah, I was there any other ones that you had happened to know about or anything? I know I had asked.
Well, we are in the age of Aquarius, and Pluto's moving through Aquarius, and that just started last year, and so that's like a 19-year cycle. Those are big transformative cycles, and with it in Aquarius now, it's definitely, you know, that 11 energy, that Aquarius energy, like Uranus rules technology, electricity. It is that revolutionary spirit. So I think that there will be a lot of, I mean, it's just definitely perfect for the age of Aquarius. There's going to be a lot um, of technological transformation, revolution, or fighting back some rebellion for sure. And then also, your Aquarius is also like goals, like in a sense of like community goals, like utopian ideals, I guess.
I can see
And
that.
and like progressing towards those utopian ideals. So that's definitely happening, and that just started.
I wonder if I'll do better off with this thing.
So it should be interesting. Other than that, I mean, there's other things happening. Neptune just moved into Aries. And I forget how long Neptune is in signs, but a pretty decent amount of time. Maybe 7 to 12 years. Don't quote me on that, but that'll, I guess with Neptune there, you have some dissolving because that's what Neptune does. So yeah, a lot of change happening, but I would say the major cycles are probably that Pluto in Aquarius and then that Neptune and Saturn conjunction in Aries. That's going to be a big deal in February.
All right. Well, thank you. I don't know any of that stuff. Ellis or Ethan, was there anything that you wanted to add or say before we wrap it up?
I'm curious. Well, I don't want to mimic Nick and saying I don't want to put you on the spot, Leon. But I'm wondering, how do you use sacred geometry and numerology in your life, and what you do, how you use it for your balance progression or whatever.
I'm going to tell you honestly, as a person to person, I didn't know who I was. I used to think about things like, why am I alive? What is life? I couldn't figure any of it out. And when I got into this and I looked at my own chart, then it helped me a lot to understand who I was. And then we have to look at our personal history, like I looked at mine, and then a sequence of things happened that helped me a whole lot. My childhood was rough. I've been on my own since I was 17, but I have a 22 and an 11 in my chart. And everybody is going to experience those energies differently, those frequencies. For me, starting something from nothing was normal, totally normal. I used to even have dreams about being in an aircraft, naked, and dropped into a canopy of nothing but green trees, and I was fine. So I've started businesses, I've started families. This numerology business I have, a couple of years ago, I sat down on the sidewalk in Totnes and I got a piece of cardboard and I wrote on it numerology and started taking donations. And now 2 years later, I'm lecturing at Hippocrates. So that's that 22 energy. And then my birth path number being an 11, we're freaks. We're nonconformists, like that Uranus energy. So then I understood that, there's no way I can be normal, be conventional. And then the rest of my numbers are 5 and 2. The 5 energy, which is the initial foundational frequency, I'm a communicator. I've been teaching since I was 17. I didn't plan on it, but when I got into survival, I became a survival instructor, and I was teaching. I was teaching survival to men that were older with more rank than I had. Then when I ended up in the yoga ashram, I was teaching, and I taught that for a long time. And now I'm doing this numerology, and I'm teaching too. So yeah, it helps to do your numerology and understand what that energy is, because we can't. That's and to share some of this, especially with the Eros here. All of that energy is feminine. The only creative energy, the bulk of it, if I don't know how to put it in words, is feminine energy. We don't have babies. We're not born with eggs. We don't call it Father Earth. It's feminine energy. The purpose of masculine energy is to provide containment and a way for that feminine energy to just be. So that's where the numerology is right in the center there. So like in my case, it's 522-211. And that's my creative energy. So yeah, I've had to finally come to grips with that and understand who I am. So I wasn't so accusational about myself, so condemning self, whatever that is. And man, we could talk about stuff like this forever. The word Satan, it comes from a Hebrew word, Hasatan, and it means the accuser. And we all have that inside of us. We're accusing ourselves. So once you understand your numerology, you can kind of quiet that voice down and say, that's the way God made me. That's the way I am. That's my nature to be like that. So yeah, in my case, I had to accept that, what that means. So
That's
yeah,
great.
it's like, and what I've found is you only got one soul. So astrology, numerology, Ayurvedic dosha, human design, Mayan calendar, it's all talking about one person. So you're going to see it overlapping and speaking in similar language about a person's frequencies. For sure. I just like numerology because it's simple. I think it's really basic and it's pretty accurate. But it doesn't answer questions. It's not going to tell a person when they should jump off a bridge on what day. Nothing like that.
All right. I guess Eros and Headless and Ethan, you guys are good.
Well, I'm just thinking about 11 now, and I feel like I can definitely feel that 11 energy. Like, I think as a collective consciousness, we're moving towards remembering how important community is and remembering how to form friendships and stuff like that. I think that's a big next step of humanity. I think that's going to be a big part of this Pluto in Aquarius.
I know every generation too. That's really informative what you're adding there. Those of us from the 60s, Pluto was in Leo. So we're bold. We're center stage. The poster child for that is Mick Jagger with the black shirt on with the Leo symbol on the black shirt at Altamont. And now, like you said, Pluto's going into Aquarius. So that's bringing in the Aquarian age for sure, for everyone. And it's really nice to see happen. I wanted to add this, Eros, so you understand it. In numerology, 11, if it was not one of what they call master numbers, would break down, reduce to a 2. 1 and 1 is 2. 2 can be any relationship, not just polarities, but it could be an imbalanced relationship like dominant and subordinate. If you look at 11, it's 2 number ones, and that's what you're describing, that we're going into this age of brotherhood, of community, where it's not slavery, it's not oppression, it's not dominance, but it's a whole bunch of us being number one, but able to be in community together. And
I love
that's
that so much.
well, that's the truth. And it's all, like I said, we're just starting this stuff since the 60s. I mean, I've been in a lot of communities. Most of them are, struggling or whatever, going through growing pains, you know. Most of the communes we started back in the 60s are not around anymore, or they've really changed. But each new generation now is refining that vibe, so some of them are a lot more successful. I spent a lot of time in Portugal the last 4 years, and it's attracting a whole lot of people from all over Europe and from the United States to go to Portugal and start these intentional communities and live in them. And it's interesting why it's Portugal. My feelings on it is kind of what I'm experiencing here in Florida. I think the Atlantean vibe, culture spread from that part of Europe and was connected to this part of the New World. So there's something happening that's really significant that's happening here in southern Florida, and there's something significant that's happening in Portugal too, that's making it easy for us to make that transition. But yeah, you're right about that, and it's totally different than the way things have been. And again, that comes out of the 60s. None of the generation before me, they weren't like, what we got to do? We got to quit our jobs and go join a commune. That wasn't happening. But all of a sudden in the 60s, a whole bunch of people started doing that. And I got involved in one in Washington State called Tolstoy, which was real interesting because the guy had started based on, I had no knowledge about this, but Tolstoy's philosophies about the way communities should be. And it was called an anarchistic commune. We didn't have any leader, no government at all. And it was wild and woolly, but it was fun. It was really a lot of fun. And that's how part of how I became a hippie. I was in the military. I went to a college lecture or event, and there were hippies there from Tolstoy, and they found out I could make teepees because I was a survival instructor. So we gravitated towards each other. And I ended up making some of the first teepees that were on communes, and then that kind of flourished for a while. But yeah, that's the way I see it. I don't see it as it's going to play out for individuals, but we're taking what we know from Mother Earth, from being humans for, as long as we've been humans, as long as we've been part of this Earth family. And we've got this technology now, which has hit, a really high peak, just like it did in Atlantis. And we have to fuse those two together and create something wonderful out of it. Because we don't want to be groveling on the dirt, and we don't want to be lost in some fiction. It's got to be a synthesis that's going to create this new human.
Well said, sir. Yeah, I think if anybody else has anything to say, or wrap it up, I'm going to let everybody plug their stuff before we get back to you, Leon, and I'll let you plug everything that you got going on. Euros, since you're here now, I'll let you go first. Please let everybody know where they can find all your amazing work.
You can find me on YouTube at ArrowSup, and you can find me on Twitter at Arrows to Ethos. Again, I cover the Enneads, and I post about astrology.
Yes.
Thanks for having me, Nick.
Of course, yes. And definitely check her out on the Occult Reject. She's done the Enneads with us twice. Maybe we could do that again in the future. Like that. But yeah, definitely check out his stuff. And I appreciate you coming on, Euros. And Headless Giant, sir, you are muted. So whenever you're unmuted, let us know where you can send that mail to, where we can send those stories to.
You can send your occult emails to us at headlessgiantpodcast@gmail.com and include those addresses so we can get you some stickers. Thanks.
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much, sir. And Ethan Indigo. what is up, my man?
Well, I appreciate you guys. That was awesome discussion. Leon, thank you so much for sharing all that, especially the esoteric lesson of Satan, right? The how we accuse ourselves. That's a great idea. I'm easy to find online, Ethan Indigo Smith, and I appreciate communication, anyone reaching out. So appreciate you guys.
Thank you very much, sir. And last but not least, Leon, sir, please let everybody know where they can find you if they're looking for you. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry.
My name. You got me?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, on Instagram at my name at Leon Bowski. I've got a website, Sacred Geometry Numerology, and phone call. Just get if you know anybody wants their chart done that would benefit from it, please. I do video calls. I'll do the chart, send a picture, and then we'll do a live reading of the person's chart, which a person can record. And yeah, that's what I'm doing.
And you got Instagram as well, right?
What's that?
You have an Instagram as well?
Yeah, it's just at my name, Leon Bowski. And that's where I'm doing a lot of communication right now. There's some brilliant people on Instagram that I'm communicating with right now. I could share so much more, but we'll do it another time, Nick. But yeah, a lot of us are headed in the same direction. It's confusing for some people, but it's going to become more clear. I call them juggernauts taking us into this golden age. One of them is veganism. And a lot of people become argumentative about that, but it just basically means you don't kill. And then the second one's sustainability, like the Native Americans say, we're just visitors here. And then the third one is open sourced, which we're experiencing right now. So yeah, it's all good.
Okay, sir. Yeah, I'll include those links in the show notes. And thank you very much for coming on. And again, thank you everybody for jumping on as well.
Yeah, thank y'all. It's a pleasure meeting all of y'all.
And thank you everybody that was in the live chat. And until the next one, everybody be well. Later.